How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and we have a really important Mets discussion to get into on the second base position. Because at one point, we were all led to believe that Jed McNeil was once again going to be our 2025 opening day second baseman, but now that he is sidelined at minimum 3 to 4 weeks from his initial injury prognosis of a low-grade oblique strain, what does that mean, folks? Yes, second base is officially up for grabs. This, in fact, is why the Mets did not sign Jose Iglesias. This is why they did not seek an option even after Nick Madrigal went down. David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza want to give the keys to the kids in Luisangel Acuña and Brett Baty. And not only are they going to have the greatest opportunity yet to crack this roster for 2025, but there's an even bigger opportunity for one of said players to run away with that second base position and really never look back. That's what we're going to highlight in this one, everybody. So thank you guys so much for smashing that like and subscribe button as you first chime in. Let me know in the comments down below, which player are you more optimistic with? Is it Brett Baty, Luisangel Acuña, or someone else that we're not discussing at that second base position? And thank you so much in advance for doing so. Before we move forward into today's video, let me first put you guys onto our sponsor here at SeatGeek. Because guys, as you can tell, I've been using the SeatGeek app well before they became an official sponsor here, thanks to Mets tickets, Rangers tickets, Knicks tickets, concerts, you name it. We got you covered here in the SeatGeek app. And not only do they have over 28 million downloads, making them the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today, and over 70,000 events to choose from, there's one key factor which has stood out from SeatGeek in my opinion, which is why I've been actively using them as much as I've had over the past couple years, and that has been their rating scale. It's very different from other things I've seen in the sense that you go right in the SeatGeek app, you're looking to purchase your latest Mets tickets for the 2025 season, right? And then you get a rating scale 1 to 10, which tells you what is the best bang for your buck. So if I'm going to go click on one ticket, it may give me a rating scale anywhere from 8 to 10 with the color green, and that tells me that's a really good value, a good bang for your buck, and I should probably go and get that ticket. Whereas if I go after another ticket that maybe is on a scale 1 to 5 and isn't more the red, that's telling me I should probably defer away. That isn't going to be the best bang for my buck, and I could do better elsewhere. They're still in the SeatGeek app. They're fair and honest, and that's really stood out a lot to me. And don't worry, guys, I got you covered here because we have the official promo code at WARDY10. That is WARDY10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. And the best part is, it doesn't just need to be for Mets tickets. It can be for whatever you guys want to buy tickets for. So if it's for the Mets 2025 season, whether it's for the upcoming hockey and NBA runs that we have right now, playoff-wise, are right around the corner at the time of recording this, or if you guys want to get in on concert, comedy show action, the way that I currently have my Shane Gillis tickets queued up well before SeatGeek was even a sponsor here for his April show, as well as Creed with Daughtry and someone else I actually have for my parents to see this summer as a late holiday gift for them. So whatever you guys want to buy on the ticketing scene, make sure you do it here with our awesome friends at SeatGeek. And also make sure you head over to the description down below and make sure you click in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account, so that way you can use it later. Shout out to SeatGeek once more for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. Alrighty, folks, now let's get into this Mets second base discussion. Thank you so much in advance to everybody that listened to the ad read. We always greatly appreciate that. But now let's start today's discussion by highlighting the man that is more than likely not only going to crack this roster right away, but is deemed as many as the current favorite at second base, and that is going to be, yes, Brett the Met Baty. And I know we got a lot of Luisangel Acuña truthers in here. Don't you worry. We're going to spend plenty on the Acuña front here shortly. But let's start with the obvious one in Brett Baty, who is now entering his year 4 with the Mets at the major league level. And yes, I'm saying that because it's pretty much a slam dunk guarantee that he's cracking this Mets roster. It felt that way to begin with, as he looked like the man leading the charge to crack that utility role. But now with McNeil out a number of weeks, it's even more abundantly clear that Brett Baty is at least here to stay to begin the 2025 regular season. So let's get into the pros and the cons when it comes to Brett Baty, because we know that this is not the first rodeo with someone like him. This is a true make or break year for Brett, who now is entering his age, at least 25 season or so, around that age. So he's not getting any younger, and while he's around the same age as me, Brett Baty's going out there trying to get his career really ramped up now, whereas me, I'm just trying to get my career ramped up talking about guys like him. But Brett, as we saw so far this spring training, still batting over 300 at over 1,000 OPS. The power has clearly been there. His ability to pull baseballs has clearly been there. But the big bugaboo with Brett has not been what he's done in spring training. As a matter of fact, it's far from it. It's been what he doesn't do in the regular season because, as I mentioned, this is not Baty's first rodeo. He would be entering his 4th consecutive year with the Mets. In year 1, he had not even 50 plate appearances that we saw. In year 2, we saw him around 350. Last year, we saw him much less than that, in which in the 2022 season, he had some pretty rough offensive numbers, 9 home runs over that stretch, including like a 220 average or so, a 275 on base percentage, and a slugging that was not 400 to say the least. So Baty was well below a league average batter and below a league average defender in 2022. As we know, he's just struggled mightily on all accounts getting acclimated at the MLB level. But then as we got to 2023, that's where things started to change for Baty, because while yes, the bat's ball skills still became a continued issue, what was most notable about Baty was his defensive upside. He went from being a guy that you simply couldn't play at the hot corner, doing his best JD Davis impression, to now being a guy that's in the 70th plus percentile, and now it's above average, and you're feeling pretty good about him there at that hot corner position. I surely feel that way, and now to see him this spring training, getting reps at second base and shortstop, it's only great for him and his development to work on more of these infield utility options, because the fastest path for Baty to not only get to the bigs but also be a mainstay is to be diverse, is to not be a one-dimensional player where you know exactly what you're getting, which is say a prototypical, first baseman, third baseman, they're nothing else, and say they're not even great at the position. And Baty can at least be solid at the second base position, where we've seen him both look good and not so good already at second base so far this spring at the time of recording this. Now, I'm not going to buy too much into spring performance, but when it comes to position battles, it's most notable because when you're going to say have Acuña be a web gem and say maybe Baty is the opposite of a vacuum there at second base at times, naturally I can see where these debates come in more to play and where the results from spring training are more notable. I completely understand those arguments. The same way I understand that for the Mets and Brett Baty in 2023, the defense was there, the bat was there within the first couple of weeks. We all saw the home run heroics, and then it was nowhere to be seen again. Baty went down to being, unfortunately, by all counts, if you look through the baseball savant numbers, a well below league average batter. The bat to ball skills, when looking at the bat speed, has been great. That has been Baty's issue whatsoever. He's had a very quick bat in his young career, but it's been about the not necessarily just the entire look of the swing, but rather how well is he with his barrel rate, which has not been good whatsoever. How well is he with lifting the baseball as well as eliminating the ground ball percentage? He has been putrid in that category at the major league level. What about Baty should have us optimistic about that changing in the year 2025? Well, the spring results are fantastic early going, and more so in how he's doing it, I think, is most notable. If Baty was, say, getting just a bunch of hits opposite field, just poking them and having no power implementation and not pulling the baseball, then I would have a much different discussion than what we're currently having. But after seeing what Baty has done so far this spring, both offensively, defensively, and knowing that between himself and Luisangel Acuña, you can make the rightful argument that he is the better bat right now at the major league level. And I know this might be a debate because in a limited sample size, Acuña was nothing short of fantastic, and we're going to get into that shortly, but let's not lose sight of the simple fact that Brett Baty is absolutely a guy that's in a make-or-break season now for the Mets, and is hungry as all heck to get out there. We've seen him in many interviews this spring training, as which he's been as humble as possible, obviously, has really reaffirmed how much he went back down to simplifying his swing and his basics versus being a little bit too anal about things in recent years, and more so not only working on his defensive versatility all spring long, but it's really on how we've seen the difference with the bat. And that's something that can carry over into the regular season. Even if Baty is, say, more in a platoon setting to begin the year at second base, or say Baty faces more righties and Acuña faces more mainly lefties, I understand also the fans saying, well, why would you platoon them? It may hurt their development. It's also the fastest path for one, both of them to be with the team right away, but two, not in a way that's rushing. It's the battle of the best between Acuña and Baty. Who's going to win this battle? And no way to have a healthier battle than two infield options for the Mets that have had some great strides and limited sample sizes while not having nearly enough reps at the major league level to know exactly what you're getting yet. But in the case of Baty, I think a lot of fans feel somewhat certain as to what they're getting. But you know what? He's changed the number from 22 for Soto to 7 there for Lama. I'm going to butcher the nickname, so I'm just going to go where our guy Jose Reyes, among others, and note that maybe we will see a natural change there in not only the number change, but also in his comfortability especially at the major league level. I think the confidence will continue to be there with Baty. He obviously, from my time seeing him in spring training over this past week in person, he looked great. He's such a stocky guy too. Like, he has all the build to make you think that he's going to be a really good baseball player, and he just hasn't put it all together yet. But Baty has not instead put his head down, but rather kept it up and has been a positive influence in that Mets clubhouse, on the field, and is looking to really impact this Mets team to the point where, could he not only take this second base job, but run with it? Could we finally see that gap-to-gap ability, that home run ability? Again, we're not asking for you to be, Barry Bonds out here, Brett, but we're just asking you to be around league average or close to, competent in that area when looking at pulling baseballs as well as your power implementation. If you can give us anywhere from a 15 to 20 home run season, no one's complaining about that. Anywhere from a 760 to 800 OPS would be obviously very ideal. I know that might be a tall task for someone like Baty, who just had his past season of an OPS over 600 for the first time in his major league career, so he's got more work to do, and we understand that. And while it's an uphill climb still for a guy like Brett Baty to get where he wants to be, a great head on his shoulders that we know, it really hasn't been an uphill climb for a guy that's been rather underwhelming at the minor league level, polar opposite from Brett Baty, who is literally Barry Bonds every time he's sent back down to Syracuse. But no, guys, let's get into our key discussion here on Luisangel Acuña, because Acuña, in my opinion, is the most fascinating of this entire group in the sense that he has so much to offer. And when we look at just a little sample size that he had with the Mets last year, not only was I grateful to be in attendance there for his first official Mets game, hit a single up the middle against the Phillies, and sadly that lost because Luis Severino had to give up multiple tanks to Bryce Harper, and then the bullpen wasn't great from there. Regardless, though, Acuña getting reps for Francisco Lindor down with injury last year, talk about making the most of your opportunity, buddy. Not only does he do that, but he goes on to have a home run spree that you're just about to see here. Back-to-back games there at Citi Field, just hitting tanks left, right, and center. And like you, I was like, there is no way. Is this Ronald? Like, what are we getting here? But all jokes aside, I'm not here to talk about Ronald the rival. I'm here to talk about his younger brother, who is here, and Luisangel Acuña. And Acuña last year, in a limited sample size, batted over 300 for the Mets. He was really good. The slugging was fantastic. Multiple home runs, as well as a sprint speed per Baseball Savant, and the 95th percentile. So the aspect to Luisangel Acuña that's most intriguing, in my opinion, is the speed implementation. It is that true versatility. And honestly, the glove, Acuña is a more natural defender than Brett Baty. I think we can notice that right away. It really isn't hard to tell. He handles himself very comfortably there. We've seen him handle even third base comfortably so far this spring training. We know Acuña can handle second, and we should expect to see plenty more of that. But in the interim right now, as he's going to battle things out with Brett Baty this spring, and maybe he's going to say be in a platoon situation, facing more lefty pitching than right-handed pitching, so that way they both get early reps with McNeil on the IL. How Acuña can maximize his opportunities, just do more of what he just did that we saw him do over this past year. Just go out there, play your game. And while, yes, he was underwhelming in Syracuse last year, I mean, he was barely batting to 700 OPS or so, gets a call by the Mets, and he steps up in the high-pressure cooker of a situation where the Mets, mind you, were still grinding it out for their proper playoff spot and where they were at the time. So for Acuña to jump in the lineup and make the immediate impact he did was impressive enough, but it's another to be as versatile, I think, as a true athlete as he is. This is no slight on Baty, but Acuña is a Swiss Army knife. By having him on this roster, he is without question a base stealing threat every single time out there, and he could easily win us some runs where he could go first or third without a question just by easy pass ball. And a guy like Luisangel Acuña is one that honestly could provide a significant amount of run production for this Mets offense. What is a loaded, one healthy Mets offense in the course of the 2025-162. Now, the biggest cons with someone like Luisangel Acuña is that he hasn't provided too much offensive upside at the minor league level. He hasn't hit nearly as well as Brett Baty so far this spring, if you guys want to care about that. As well as Acuña only has such a little taste at the major league level. It really doesn't go toe-to-toe with Baty, who's had over 100 games of the major league level under his rep. Acuña's just had, again, a cup of coffee. But is that cup of coffee in a greater sample size the same exact thing? There's only one way to find out, and the best way to find out is by having Acuña battle it out with Brett Baty to start the regular season. So that is exactly why I will be surprised if that isn't the case here, barring changes. Because one more notable thing here on the Acuña-Baty front front is that these are two guys that are not only battling it out hard, but really have great heads on their shoulders. They really give off the type of vibes that are not necessarily completely selfless, but in the sense that they're not going to at all be toxic for young players. Acuña has been awesome. He's been the ultimate professional. So has Brett Baty, especially with all the hardship and the ups and downs he's had so far in his young career. Acuña has been pretty much smooth sailing since first arriving here at Queens, and that's why we all want to see more of him. We know how electric he is. We know how he's a guy that even as more of a singles and gaps to gap guy can be a Swiss Army knife of a weapon for you on the base pass, as well as what he can provide maybe off the bench. Now, Acuña is not a guy you want coming off the bench. David Stern said it himself. So should a guy like him crack this Mets roster, expect him to get ample playing time along with Baty. This once more is exactly why Jose Iglesias is now a San Diego Padre, and the oh my god era has unfortunately to some, including myself to a degree, come to an end. But I think it's going to be bittersweet knowing the upside in both Baty and Acuña, but ultimately the intrigue and how now that second base job is truly up for grabs. But folks, that is going to do it for our latest Mets segment here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did in fact enjoy, please let us know all your key takeaways in the comments down below. It really does mean a lot. And be on the lookout for more Mets content all preseason, spring training, however you want to label it, regular season, postseason, off-season long here on the WardyNYM platform. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.